Okay, thank you everyone for waiting and welcome to our webinar. My name is Nicholas. I am evangelist at Zoho, and today we're going to be looking at a relatively interesting topic here on Zoho One. Now, Zoho One is one of the largest suite of products that we have at Zoho. I want all of us to think of this as a collection of everything we do at Zoho. Essentially, you can think of it like a mega ecosystem of apps that's going to help you power your entire business process. And by that, I actually mean doing candidate sourcings, making the right hires, training these guys, equipping your staff with the right tools to really serve customers well. So again, in tandem, we're trying to improve your overall business experience with Zoho One and how you can help your employees be more productive at what they do, serve customers better, and of course, in turn, create a better customer's experience. So obviously, that may be a lot to take in given how big this suite of products is. So I'm going to give you an idea along the way of how to think about Zoho One and give you the idea of what the company had, what was the original idea that the company had when putting together, Zoho One as such a huge bundle of apps, right? So I will strip down to several layers that actually make Zoho One a unified product. So that itself, I will communicate to you. Specifically, we'll look into the areas of how we can use Zoho Ones to actually plan your resources within your company, to get automation going, to run deep cross-functional reportings as well, right? And see how we can take your business to the next level. Okay, so let's get started with the topic of digital transformation. Why? Because when we think about such a huge suite of products itself, we tend to think DX. In other words, digital transformation. And the misconception here tends to be around the idea that, hey, when we talk about DX, it means just using a whole bunch of apps. But it's actually more than that, right? It involves your processes, it involves your people, whether are your employees competent enough to actually use tools to cater to their daily needs, right? Those are areas that we have to think of. And another general misconception is that with digital transformation, most businesses tend to use multiple different software solutions. They think more is better. When actual fact, what you do end up with is having multiple different tools that you have to deal with. There are different interfaces that you have to familiarize yourself with. But what's even really more of a pain point here is having to deal with administrative complexity, admin issues. Now, I'll give an example. So, for example, when you have a new user join your organization, now certainly he or she will need to be added to, whatever software service you're using, created an account for them, right? So now you need to speak with multiple different vendors. That's very cumbersome. But what's even more cumbersome is having to deal with multiple different paperworks. And it's very rare, trust me, it's really very rare that you have software renewal cycles all happen on the same day. And you don't want to be having a surprise invoice land on your desk. It's not a pleasant feeling to have. So obviously, that's not something that you want. So again, these are some of the main core areas that we look at, some of the major challenges that business tend to face, when it comes to DX itself. So I'll give you further examples. Say we've got a really nice sales database already going on. We've consolidated that over the years. And obviously with customers, we don't just want to acquire new ones. One of the go-to in sales is to think about how you can retain customers, reduce churn. So that means you need to get conversation going. So you're going to deploy a marketing automation tool and send personalized drip marketing email campaigns out. And most of the times, if customers do have complaints, they're going to reply to that email. So now you have a customer ticket, and you can probably have a centralized repository to actually cater to that, to organize those support tickets. So what do? You purchase and acquire a ticketing platform. And you realize that you will actually be doing so for more other solutions, things like your HR, your expense tools, your finance tools, right? Things like this. Or you might already have those, and it might be creating some problems for you. And one of those problems is perhaps in between these integrations of apps, to really get them going and integrated, you need to deal with multiple different middlewares. And that means you need to have different IT experts to help you do so. Again, very cumbersome, very tedious, more importantly, super costly for business. And again, that's why Zoho One was assembled. That's the idea of Zoho One, right? We've really created Zoho One to be very self-sufficient for your business. In that sense, we mean we're giving you license to get access to 50 plus applications from the get-go, from day one. It's pretty much on a self-discovery basis. What we mean by that is based on the stage your business is at in terms of whether you guys are growing or scaling, you will be able to look into the console and look at what are the apps that you need at this point of time. And again, the idea is as you're scaling your business, you want to be able to scale in tandem your technology usage as well. All right, so you can use this progressively. So we're not expecting you to migrate everything onto our CRM or to our project management tool. If you will, from your legacy software, you have complete control of how you want to do that. So again, if we think about an operating system, right? If you think about such a term for businesses, we are not only talking about applications, which I mean, sure, those might be tools and things that you interact with on a frequent basis, and we might think that, hey, that's DX. But certainly a whole bunch of apps put together does not mean it's an operating system. It's very much like building a home, right? You don't just put up 4 walls and say that your apartment is complete. The construction is complete. You will need your roofings. You will need your sewage lines. You will need your electricals. You need to install your carcasses for your furniture and all these sort of finishing touches as well. And that's the idea with Zoho One here. We're trying to build a home for your business data, right? For context to flow, so that when you use this data, when these data are available across these different platforms, it creates context as well. So at a high level, in terms of applications, here's what we have. I know this is a really prolific portfolio we're looking at. We have things for sales and marketing. And generally, when we talk about this, we tend to think about customer experience. But CX, customer experience, if you will, it's more than just 2 facets. It also involves the types of quality service that you put out there when supporting your customers. How well are you supporting them? So certainly we need to include the ticketing aspect of that, which is, again, catered to by our Zoho Desk tool, which is a ticketing platform. So yes, you can employ our solutions on an a la carte basis, but we do bundle them up for you. Now think about this way. Besides just having tools for your customer experience team, what's more realistic is they need to be able to collaborate across team members, across their own teams and beyond their departments. So we have productivity tools as well. We have communication tools to get that going, to support those processes. And bear in mind that while we are trying to improve your overall business experience and activities, we're trying to improve your employees' experience as well. But we are still, at the end of the day, looking at whether we are getting revenue. So again, looking into the P&L part of things, the profit and loss part of things, which is why we've integrated that finance suite into this as well. And as I said, this is self-discovery. We're not expecting you to use everything from the get-go on day one. You need to be able to come in here and look at the different types of tools that you're going to deploy for that given moment, that given stage of your business. So for anyone who is familiar with our history at Zoho, we have been around for 26, coming 27 years. In the last 5 to 6 years, we've been assembling applications, apps into suites like this. So you don't see that with other vendors. We're pretty confident to say that because they never had this crazy idea of putting everything in one suite of a product, which we did. And we made it a success. So Zoho One has been around for some time. It's in fact one of the largest products that we have, but we're still making constant improvement along the way. And that's really what we stand for, right? Always improving our user experiences. So as much as we are trying to help businesses de-silo their process, that itself, let's be truthful, most of these processes also relies on technology itself. So in a sense, how do we also unify technology? How do we make sure that at the end of the day, the types of inputs that we're documenting in terms of business data is transparent enough across all these different business platforms, right? And it goes beyond just merely integrations itself, which is what I want to explain a little bit more on. So with integrations, we tend to think about third-party integrations, right? You're basically pulling in different resources and solutions from different vendors, putting them together, expecting them to work naturally, which most of the time doesn't. There's always going to be integration gaps. Say, for example, you have a CRM, right, that you use. Again, you have a really nice sales database going on. It's already rich, full of your customers' data. And now you want to send out some cross-selling campaigns based on a few identified high-profile customers. Great. So you send out these campaigns, but the thing you need to know is you need to now understand what are their past purchase history. You need to look at, what is their preferences, or are they on any loyalty program? And eventually when you are able to, so you send out a personalized email, When they seen the email, have they made a purchase based off that? So generally, these are data that are very, very difficult, or in fact, information that are difficult to unify. And that's what we are trying to go with and trying to resolve with the unification approach here. And that's to make sure that you have contextual data constantly available across these different Zoho applications. And again, we're able to do that solely because we own this entire tech stack here. Zoho has full control over our own software, over our own hardware. It's actually possible that we do this and come up with an operating system solely because we build everything from ground up ourselves. And that's to say we own our own data centers as well. So again, everything is taken care of by Zoho, and coming out of that, the result is a bundle that it's really, really unified. And there are three main components that actually make Zoho One so powerful. I'm going to name them now. They are your platforms, they are your services, they are apps. Okay, platform, services, apps. Now, when we take a look at things like services itself, these are generally things and applications that you see other third-party vendors do as a standalone product. And it can be a business intelligence tool, like a business analytics tool. It can be your AI services tool. It can be a tool that you use to make call happens, telephony services. But the idea of this as a service is that we're taking such a functionality and embedding them into our core products to actually give more productivity to our business users itself. So a few examples are this. Business analytics tool. You've got AI, you've got the search function, unified search function, if you will. So essentially, that means being able to make searches across all these different modular solutions that you're on with Zoho. We're talking about communication tools, we're talking about telephony call system as well, payments, signals, the list goes on. Again, these are embedded into our core products. Now, I'll give you an example of what that means. So, for example, I'm using a CRM. I'm in sales. I want to know what's the best time to contact my customer. Say the customer name is Andy. So what am I going to rely on? I will have to tap on our AI system, which is Zia, which is Zoho's intelligent AI assistant. So Zia is going to be able to look into your historical database. It's going to look into your core data and recommend the best time to contact Andy in this case. And the identified time might be Tuesday, 2 p.m. Right, so that's the go-to. So now we know what's the best time to reach out to Andy. We need to make a call to Andy now. So where do we rely on? We rely on that telephony system, which is powered by a technology we call voice over internet protocol. So you'll be able to make that call directly to Andy itself, all within the CRM. And again, that's what we mean by unification of services and embedding that into our core products with the likes of a CRM. We're making more, of course, improvement along the way. Obviously, we are integrable with other third-party vendors as well, right? Another service that I think is really, really interesting here is our business analytics tool. And again, generally, if you think about this, such services are typically only available for large organizations who are willing to pay that amount of money to get some form of deep, functional, cross-functional reporting activities going. But again, with Zoho, when you're on Zoho One, when you're using these multiple different software solutions, you'll be able to unify your analytics better, right? Because you'll be able to better identify your data sources. You'll be able to better structure your reports and your charts together. And with the given example here, we're taking a look at customer experience dashboard. So that definitely means that you need to look into the various avenues that are feeding this. Your sales, which is your CRM. Your marketing tool, it might be a Zoho social tool, it might be a Zoho campaigns tool, right? You're taking a look at things from the customer support side of things, which is Zoho Desk side of things. So how are you bringing data and blending them with a unified analytics like such? So this is analytics in a nutshell, a unified analytics service in a nutshell. And while we've got a really nice sales database going on to obviously conduct our analysis of our own business, what we have also done here is to really enhance the function of our BI tool with the likes of an AI. Again, with Zia, right? This is something that we've developed on our own. So again, we want you to be able to come on and converse with Zia, our AI bot here, as you would with your peers. And of course, the main fundamental of an AI is natural language. So that's going to break down the structure and construct of your questions and fetch you the necessary results, whether it's in the form of a pie chart, in the form of a histogram, or in the form of integers, right? You get the necessary result you need really, really quickly when you type in your responses or your questions. So another favorite feature of mine, unified search. Again, how these work is fairly self-explanatory. What you have to do is to punch in the keywords here. As given by the example, it is an email domain. We punch that in. So essentially, Zia is going to search up the entire ecosystem of apps that you use within Zoho, all these different modular solutions, and fetch you that unified results here, centered around that email. All right, so that's how it works. And of course, how can we forget, right? We have incorporated the AI element into this as well. Again, you want to be able to have Zia look up the various confines of these different apps that you're using. So with the example here, we're asking, hey Zia, could you get me the mail sent by the VP of sales? So Zia is going to look into the confines of the email, recognize that this is from regarding the VP of sales. So it's going to look up your email thread, fetch you all the results pertaining to threads and emails that are sent by VP of sales. It's really fairly as simple as that. Now, obviously, we know Zia fetches you sensible results. Question is how, right? There has to be something, a technology that's in the backend hard at work. So the technology is Work Graph here. Work Graph here, in essence, is going to help you pick up the connections and the interactions that you have on these different business activities across all these different apps, these different services that we've just mentioned, and actually know the type of information that you're looking out for and bring it up to you. So essentially, it's looking at like web of interactions here. Things like the documents, right? What are the documents? Who is it created by? The formats of the document. Where is this document listed in? Or where is the location of this document? What's the type of conversation that's centered around this document? So these are things, components, factors that are factored into this process when Work Graph is trying to understand what exactly you are looking out for as a user. So there are more examples of how you can interact with Zia here. Obviously, I've covered the first example. With the second example on how Zia can show us the document created and shared by my team, obviously Zia will look into angles and areas on who my team members are, what are the types of documents shared by them, and where is this document seated in. So Zia will be able to recognize those different aspects, right? Now, let's talk a little bit about apps. Finally, something that we are all pretty familiar with. So obviously, as I sort of covered in the first few slides, we are really prolific in the sense that we have catered applications to these different business units of yours. Marketing, sales, service, finance, HR, IT, blah, 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 so on and forth, right? But I just want to bring to your attention that we have also made improvement along the way. While we are already pretty established in all these various segments, we are continuously improving. We are still launching new applications. Number one, digital commerce. So we realized that obviously it's really a common observation that we've seen a spike in online shopping, right? And we really want to be able to help our current existing business users tap into that e-commerce space as well. Creating a website, an online store, and listing your services and your products out there, and hopefully be able to get some online sales going, right? So this is one of the areas that we focus on. Number two, we have focused on remote collaboration as well. Not anything new to us. I believe most of us are working either hybridly or remotely. But we have to understand that we are generating new data almost every day. In fact, managing the data that we've created the day before, even months before, right? So that means we have a lot of data online that we're dealing with in the virtual space. That means we need to be able to also maintain the data hygiene, the overall cleanliness of that data, if you will, because the cleaner the data are, the more useful they are. The more useful they are, the more beneficial they are to you. Makes sense, right? So again, data cleanup is also one of the angles and approach that we have focused on. We have pretty much launched a new product called Data Prep, which I will share now. So when we talk about commerce space, we have launched new tools like Zoho Commerce, allows you to actually build your websites, your stores, online stores in a way that requires minimal coding, right? So everything's sort of based on drag and drop there. Now with Zoho Lens itself, it is a remote collaboration tool. It's pretty much for your field engineers on the ground to connect with people sitting in the HQ, and sort of troubleshoot things that are on the ground, because people in the HQ might not always get to go on the ground to supervise things, right? So you want this sort of connection going And with such a technology, it's relying on our AR technology. It's called augmented reality. So obviously with that, you'll be able to annotate and draw and comment and show directives on what are areas that you want to troubleshoot on the ground. So it gives more specific directions to field engineers or field staff. Okay, so Zoho Learn here, pretty much think of this as a knowledge base. Again, you can conduct self-paced learning. You can park all these various policies, these different documents, marketing best practices for supporting customers, use cases, and all that goes onto Zoho Learn. So again, it is an LMS tool, it's a learner's management tool. It's pretty much like a knowledge base. Learners can go on, new joiners can go on to pick up new knowledge. And data prep, finally, in this sense, is, as I sort of mentioned, it's a tool that's going to help you clean up your data and make sure that you have actual usable data every day. So I've covered services. We created our services, we own them. When we combine that with our apps and layer that into our applications, coming out of that, we have really the experience side of things. Again, that's Zoho One. So what we have with Zoho One is a unified user interface here. Now, obviously, under Zoho One, we have access to all these different modular application solutions, right? That being said, we have to be able to maintain all of them from a single interface. And what we're trying to help users overcome here is web tab management. Instead of having multiple different messy web tabs, it may be 20 web tabs, right? We don't want that. We don't want to get caught up with that. So we want tidy web tab management, but still be able to access all these different Zoho tools. Again, how you're going to do so is with the unified navigation panel that you see on the left. So you will be able to get a complete view of all these applications that you have within the console. Some are hidden. You have to access them, and you have to tap into these different solutions in another module, if you will. So you have to extend it out. But that being said, we have kept things really neat for end business users, even admins, right? So unified dashboard is important. Now, as business owners, as key decision makers, if you will, you are pretty much looking at reports and dashboards almost every day. So everything here is customizable. You're getting real-time updates of whatever's happening in these different business functions and units of yours across all these different Zoho tools that you're using, right? So you can bring in things from your storefront. You can bring in things from the finance and bookkeeping side of things. You can bring in things from your CRM to see how things operate on a higher bird's eye view level. So those are the things that can be achieved with a customizable dashboard like this. And obviously, you can organize them on your Canva, right? You can design them, you can resize them. And obviously, we're not expecting you to, create these from scratch. We have widgets to help you with this. We have widgets to help you get started. And the idea is to actually simplify this process of putting together dashboards. All right. And by the way, more widgets are coming along the way. So do look out for those if you're interested in Zoho One. And with configuration, we spoke about that. We spoke about multiple different vendors. And imagine if you're using at least a good 5 to 6 different tools and you're customizing them at different points of times. You have to go into these different apps. You have to go into these different tools. It's not fun. It's not unified at all. So we have something we call a unified configuration. You'll be able to make setups from that one view itself. It saves you a whole bunch of time. Third-party integrations is available as much as we have our own Zoho marketplaces. Our marketplace now has over 1,000 integrations with other third-party software. If you're looking at things like Office 365, there is things like this. Looking at MailChimp, if you're looking at Ring Central, which is telephony service provider, Asana, Pipedrive, those are things that you'll be able to find on our marketplace. So finally, I'm going to show you a really quick demo here. What I'm going to do is to show you a brief overview of how things looks like from a unified interface. Essentially, a walkthrough of the Zoho One console here. Okay, so I'm going to pull up my demo account. Just give me a couple seconds. There you go. Okay, hopefully you're seeing my screen, and I'm going to log myself in here. Okay. And what's sweet about such a login is, with Zoho, we have this thing called single sign-on. So apparently, as you're signing in once, right, it pretty much locks you into all these existing Zoho applications that you're already on. So when I'm signing into my accounts, it will log me into my CRM, my Zoho Recruit, which is an application tracking tool, logging me into Dash, logging me into Zoho Click, which is a team messenger tool, so on and so forth. So you get the idea. So once we have logged in, what we're going to do is we're going to go to Zoho One console here. Like every other Zoho tools, what you would typically see is we're going to find ourselves being directed to this dashboard page here. Again, what you see here, as I sort of mentioned, is a customized dashboard. I built a dashboard that's more catered to customer experience, right? So obviously, all these different widgets that we spoke of are completely interactive. Again, if you're taking a look at things like from sales, you want to be able to come under the mail widget and just filter out sales threads, and you'll be able to see all emails coming in from sales. Now, you can also pull in widgets on Sales IQ, which is a live chat agent. It's a chatbot that you embed on your website. Pretty typical, you see that in most websites these days. But what you will be able to do is to see the number of visitors coming in. Which country are they checking in from? So we have really a quick bird's eye view of just how well our website is doing, how our services are being viewed, in these different regions across these different countries. Okay, so campaigns, you can put that in. You might even want to have a more granular view of all these existing open tickets. Currently, I do not have any, fingers crossed. That means we don't have much problem with our products. But, realistically speaking, you are going to have tickets coming in, and you want to be able to have a prioritized view, which you will be able to do over here. So in the nutshell, this is the customer experience dashboard. You want to be able to create, other dashboards pointed towards other business units. So in this case, we have a finance one going on. In any case, you want to create a new one that's more HR specific, you can do that. Just have to go on here and type in, give this dashboard a name, right? I'm going with HR at Zilker. So you want to be able to look at widgets like your HR widgets, right? And then pull them in. We're adding more along the way, so you certainly see more. So all these are resizable. It gives you a really good idea of, your hiring pipelines, your candidate, their attendance and all that sort of stuff, depending on how you plug and play. So that is customizable dashboard in a nutshell. What's interesting here, finally, it's the left-hand navigation bar. So as you can sort of tell here, it's pin applications. I pretty much pin applications in the sequence where I use it on a day-to-day basis. So obviously I use Click first. It's a team messenger tool. Again, when we look at the navigation bar like this, when we click into that, it's going to direct us right into the team messenger app itself. So again, as you take a look at my tabs, it's not creating a new tabs. I have pretty much everything that's done within one interface itself. So this is a team messenger tool. What I can do here is check myself in, navigate through, chat up different folks, look into different teams, meetings, channels, if you will. I have something coming in from the CRM, which is created using automation workflow rules. It's telling me that I have an on-site meeting with this customer called Stella. All right, so that is the team messenger tool in a nutshell. And again, you can even come on here to look into different, social media tools, campaigns tools, depending on the type of different modular solutions that you're using. So you're accessing everything from this one interface here. All right, and that's the beauty of the Zoho One console. So you get the idea. I think what's really interesting is going to directory. As you sort of see earlier on, I have basically went down the directory tabs and landed myself in the directory module. So what you see under directory, it's pretty much the area where you look into user statistics. Okay, just how many signed users are there, how many apps are being engaged right now, how many users are there within your organization. Personally, what I find most useful is actually looking under the most utilized apps. And again, if sales is really a main go-to, right, you want to be able to look at whether the CRM is actually underutilized, which it is. So perhaps you need to do something more about that. So it gives you like a granular idea of what's happening in terms of using these different Zoho tools within your company itself. Organization module here is pretty interesting. You probably want to get all these filled up as well. So you can put in your telephone numbers, your websites. You can put in work locations, especially if you're operating across these different regions and these different offices and HQs across this globe. You want to put that in. Designation is interesting. This is where we actually create roles, right? And designations, I think this is actually one of the most interesting and most important space of setting it up. Why? Because eventually you have to assign users to a role. And I'm going to touch on conditional assignments later on. That's essentially a function that helps you group apps together and assign it to users based on their role. So immediately, anyone who is tagged as perhaps a project manager will have access immediately to those group of apps. That can be done, which is why step A like this is so important. You need to be able to come on and create the right designations. And eventually, when you're adding new users, you're tagging them to these roles. So it facilitates the after process better. So applications, I'm going to give you a quick overview of all these different apps and tools that we have. So obviously, these are tools that are built by Zoho. You can also add on tools externally as well to your portfolio or to your likings. First, we have in the list is analytics, which is a business data analytics tool. I'm just going to use this as an example. So looking under it, you see a breakdown of all these different users, right? And you can actually assign users here, assign more users. So for example, if we have Brandon here who has just joined, we're going to insert him here, give him a role. Perhaps you want him to be an org admin, and that will mean he will have full complete access to analytics as a whole, right? You can have multiple different options to go with here. So obviously you can assign apps to individual, you can assign apps at a group level. As I sort of mentioned, why it's so important to have designations, why it's so important to have groups, right? It's because of things like this. So this is the application view in a nutshell. Looking under users, so this is vice versa, right? Earlier on, we took a look at applications and we saw the breakdown of applications and the users that are tagged to it. Now we see the users. Personally, I prefer to do it this way. I'm able to sort of look into the users and the different access level that we have here, okay? So whether you're an org admin of a CRM, whether you are a standard basic user of data prep, so on and forth, or even recruit, these are things that you can view from here. We can even take a look at the groups that Nicholas belongs to. What is his account activities, just how frequent he signs in. It's really interesting that we get an IP address here. I mean, we tend to not do tracking, but again, for your organizations, sometimes you want to know, hey, when your sales guys are running out there, where exactly are they? Are they at specific, venue, restaurant, meeting up with clients or whatsoever? Those are things that you will have clues on when you look into things like this. Okay, so at a user level, what you will also be able to do is to edit that user profile. Again, if you are that super admin of that Zoho account, you will be able to make edits to different profiles of different users. You can change their password, you can enforce them to change passwords, and things like this, right? So again, you have like complete control as an admin. You have a better admin experience this way because again, you have so many different apps over here. So again, let me take a look at groups. As I sort of mentioned, we have split things into different groups here. I'm just going to use the project management group as an example. So obviously we see 3 different members here. Conditional assignment, we sort of spoke about that earlier on. You would see that I have groups, 6 different applications here that are mandatory for assigning, for provisioning to anyone who is a project manager or to anyone who is of a project executive role, right? So when we take a look at things like this, say we click at projects, we can tag this to user of a specific designation. That's why, again, designation is so important. All you have to do is to assign them. You can add new rules as well, right? Matching certain criteria. And things like this can all be done. So you can add criteria along the way to further specify who exactly gets access. And again, what is the type of access that they get. And essentially, in the nutshell, we are grouping everything here under one bucket and doing provisioning work to that user based on his or her roles. Now, another interesting module I think is super important is with security itself. You want to have certain security policies, things like passwords. Again, you want to be able to come on and mandate a certain length when it comes to passwords, right? It can go as long as 15 alphanumeric numbers, right? And it gives you a good idea of just how strong your data policy is or your password policy is. If special characters are actually allowed in this case. And if you want to mandate a certain password to be changed at a given point of time, maybe 3 months later, 6 months later, those can be done. Multi-factor authentication is really important. At Zoho, to access our account, you can pretty much authenticate that process. So it gives you an extra layer of security. Personally, I use OneOff here. It's also another authentication tool by Zoho itself. So you can have various options of signing in, whether it's through biometrics, one-time password, or push notification. Okay. So again, passwords can be mandated here. The type of strength of passwords can be mandated at an admin level. Because you are operating on so many different Zoho applications, you want to be able to safeguard access to those data. Okay, which is why Zoho One consoles like this is important. It's where you provision access. It's also where you deprovision access to apps. It's also where you, quickly cut off access as well. So that points me to my next demo here. This next segment is called device management. For certain companies that are going to issue certain device to different users, maybe things like your sales team or your pre-sales team, they're going to be tagged with a device, a corporate device, and you want to have accountability for that as well. Things like what are the types of browser they're accessing, what are the types of applications they're accessing, things like this. So once you got those enroll, we've got different enrollment functions, by the way. So again, if you click on enroll device, obviously you can enroll a personal device that the employees own. That would mean that you have also limited access to viewing what are the various activities that's happening on that gadget, on that device itself, because it's a personal one. Again, if you're looking at corporate enrollment, that's pretty much like a company's device. So probably you will have full access to those. Okay, so these are the different types of enrollment that you can do. But again, if you take a look at a view of a device that is already enrolled with us, you will be able to see a breakdown on the different types of device type. Is it Android phone? Is it a Apple product, right? The types of memory used, things like this. You can take a look at associated profiles, which user is tagged to this device. You have a good information, a granular information over here as well. If you take a look at just these three options, okay, what's so important? The use case here, if ever a device gets lost in that process and you want to safeguard your organization data, you can either remotely lock this or do a complete wipe, in case this lands into the hand of a stranger and anything is compromised, that can be wiped remotely from the backend, from your end as an admin as well. So last but not least, installable apps, very, very important for us. This is where you'll be able to distribute apps to that device. You're able to tag and group applications to that device. So we're doing that one-time provisioning. Obviously, you can distribute device and install them onto that device, in this case, RQ's device. You can do it manually. You can do it through silent installations as well. So I just want to quickly introduce one of the last features here is marketplaces. Again, we know we have access to 50 plus Zoho tools here under Zoho One. Again, I'm just going to bring us through the browsing process. Obviously, here we have a lot of different applications available, third-party applications, if you will. And if you take a look at those, you can search the app. You can search by editions, right? Is it standard, professional, enterprise? If you want to look at something that is more, let's say, sales-centric, right? There's no customer under sales-centric. So we're going to look up our apps. And so obviously, you can search up all these different integration possibilities on Now Marketplaces as well. So yeah, so again, it's a mix and match here, right? So that is Zoho One in a nutshell. We are constantly making more improvements along the way. So whether it comes to our product support, whether it comes to user educations, I briefly spoke about widgets as well. We're making more widgets along the way. So it really helps you ease into that dashboard creation process. Okay, and we're enhancing reports and dashboard because really we're sitting in the day of data these days, and we're dealing with data so much. We need to be able to have a simplified view of it. We need to have better data visualization. So we're really working on that aspect as well. And I know I didn't cover a lot of all these different Zoho applications because of time constraint, but at a high level, I did show you just how Zoho One console sort of looks and feels like. Now, again, if you want to take a look at the integrations and the relationship that each and every of these different applications have, how do we jump from one process, from one apps to another? but still be able to capture and maintain that context of tasks, check out this video here. Because I did a live demo on Zoho One, I essentially show you the full spectrum from hiring to training, making a sale happen, creating a custom projects, and all that sort of great stuff. So click on the link. Alternatively, scan the QR code that will bring you to the YouTube channel. Sign up for our YouTube channel. We are contactable, so if ever today after today's session you're interested in Zoho One, do hit us up at apex-info@zohocorp.com. These icons, social media icons, are, by the way, clickable, so check them out. I'm going to open the floor right now to questions. Thank you, everyone.